So we have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses until now.
Yes.
My name is Christina Lynn. I am the what you guys when you watch the unboxing, that's me on the Pretty Little Death, and this is the
Hmm.
bestie.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I am the bestie. I recently got back into reading after a very, very, very long hiatus. It's pretty much since like college. And now I have my Kindle, and um, the crazy world of book talk was very much a shock to me because like that kind of um, environment was definitely not around
Yeah,
10, 15, almost 20
I
years
mean,
ago
I
now.
remember like having to hide my books because people would be like, "What are you reading?" And I'm like,
I know. It's like none of your business, first off. And secondly,
"Let me live
leave me
my
alone.
life."
Let me live. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
like
yeah.
you'd get some looks, and now like everybody and their mother is a smutty book reader.
Hmm.
And I will
And
say,
power to them.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah, it's just a different kind of porn. I mean, the imagination is like the best sensual tool ever. Um,
Yes.
but A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, I will admit that I had heard about this book because I'm not really on TikTok. I haven't looked at TikTok in like over a year and a half now. But
Hmm.
Facebook has reels, and everybody was going on about A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I do not like hype. Um,
Yeah.
I will stay away from hype. So this book was published in oh,
2015.
2015. So it's been almost 10 years since this book was published. Um, and yeah, like I remember 2015 because I was in school to be a hairstylist, and I didn't have time to read then because I was studying. But I don't actually remember hearing about this book in 2015. It wasn't until the pandemic that I started seeing like lots of reels and videos and stuff like that, and I was like, this sounds stupid. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds stupid.
And
Um,
what were you reading? What kind of books were you reading at the time?
I wasn't, because
Okay.
it was the pandemic. Like
Yeah.
I didn't get back into reading um, until like 2021. Um, so I mean, I read a lot in school, um, and but I mean, for quite a while, I was always go 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 working. I had other hobbies that I was indulging in, and then the pandemic hit, and everything like the whole world froze. So
Yep.
some of those hobbies, I mean, there's stuff before that, but the hobbies that I had enjoyed, I couldn't do, and I had a lot of free time on my hand. Instead of just playing video games all the time, which I will totally do as well.
Same.
I started reading on my phone. And then my husband was like, "You're going to ruin your phone. The battery's going to die. You're always reading. So why don't I get you a Kindle?" So I got a Kindle. And then I just started reading that. And then only lately have I started purchasing physical copies again, um, much to my husband's chagrin.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but this one came up, and you had mentioned you wanted to read it, and I was just like, oh. A coworker of mine had read it. I actually invited them on to join us in our discussions, and he said that he would be open to it if that's what we wanted. I figured we'd get this one out of the way, though. Maybe this one and the
Hmm.
next one. Um, and I asked why the hell had he read the series, and he was like,
Hmm.
a friend of mine told me I should. And
Wow.
honestly, like having read this one, I told my husband he should read it. Um,
Hmm.
just based on this one. So what is it? Okay, so a 19-year-old huntress, Feyre, kills a wolf in the woods. A terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. So I think one of the things that got our interest was Instagram, Bookstagram.
Yeah.
There is nothing but Tamlin Feyre reels, like.
Yes, nothing but that. Nothing but like.
And we didn't know what
and
the
I
hell
also
was
got a
going
lot
on.
of spoilers too. I have to
Right.
say that was frustrating. I was like, okay, I just like would skip really quickly. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Right. Again, I don't care about spoilers, but Cass does.
I do. My interest starts to decline if I get spoiled about something, and I'm like, oh well, I already know, so not exciting anymore.
It's the journey, not the destination, my love.
It's the whole package for me. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. It took me a while to get into it though. I think I was on chapter like 8 or 9, and I was texting you like,
this is
I'm
slow.
about to this is really slow, and I didn't know the date that it was released prior to reading the book, and I've been reading a lot of romantasy, and a lot of them follow the same.
Oh my gosh!
Same exact timeline.
That's what I thought when I was reading this.
And story beats. So I was thinking, oh, this is all things I've read before.
Let's be clear though. This is very much following along the Beauty and the Beast storyline. Like, it's just a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. Now, I have seen that somebody said that it's actually Howl's Moving Castle, which I see elements in that.
Yeah, I do.
But it's not.
It's more Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Especially with like the transformation. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole, in the forest, the sisters, the father, all of that. But I agree. Like, it was slow to start. Like, I was reading it and I read it, I think, over the span of like a day or two. And it took a minute. It took a minute. I would not call this smut at all.
It's like, definitely not a smut.
Everybody was like, "Oh, you're reading that book." And I'm like,
what do you mean?
I'm almost over with it. What do you mean? Nothing has happened.
I just want to show my rating system. It was my first one that I gave a mini chili pepper. My first mini one. Because technically, yes, they do detail some things, but
it is fade
to black both times. Yes. And I think there's only two scenes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I could possibly give this a 1, but I gave it like a 2.5. Definitely a 2 for the water drop.
There was a lot of build up and no release.
Right. So that was frustrating for me, but to each their own. Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, so things that we liked. I'll let you go first.
Okay. I'll read a little bit of my review. First half I was very bored. I thought, definitely Beauty Beast retelling turned out to be a lot more nuanced than I expected. The foreshadowing was not like ham-fisted and in your face, which is what I enjoyed, because a lot of the things I've read more recently, they just kind of like throw things at you, and you're in your head, you're like, yep, I know what's gonna happen now. I know how this is going to end. But this one, I didn't expect how violent this was, and I didn't expect it to turn the way that it turned. they kind of hinted a little bit about like the goriness aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't expect how violent it became. But it was fun. It
Yes.
ended up being a lot more fun to read than I expected. It's not what I expected, so I'm happy. I am generally happy with it. I had a good time.
I
Um,
I tried to annotate this one. I don't know if you
yeah.
can see it. I tried to. Um but there was just like it's the case of there was so much going on but not enough going on.
So I did write in. There was a very frustrating point where um, they're finally. I mean, are we going into spoiler
Yeah.
territory?
Yeah,
Okay.
these ones we don't this that is there's always spoilers when we're discussing because we're
Okay.
actually discussing the book. When I do the
Okay.
my wrap-ups, I'm just
Mhm.
doing a review of the writing and whether or not it's a good read for the smut aspect or the
Okay.
dark.
So spoilers from this
Yes.
point forward. So when Tamlin gets captured after Feyre does not reciprocate, stating that she loves him, which was the terms of the curse.
Curse, yeah.
So Tamlin gets captured by this evil fairy that had um, taken over the land and had all of the High Lords or the High Fae under her rule.
Mm-hmm.
And the nature of the curse for what I, is it the summer court or spring
The
court?
spring court, yeah.
It's the spring court. Tamlin is the High Lord of, or the High Fae is what they call him. Um, he uh, he and all of his subjects have to wear this masquerade, and they can't take it off. So when he finally gets captured, there was this like about a page and a half of just an exposition dump.
Yeah.
That frustrated me. That frustrated
Yeah.
me. I like a show don't tell kind of story,
I I
and
I you know what? I actually marked that in my notes. Like, wow, we get nothing for like 20 chapters and then all of a sudden bleh.
yeah, and
And like
that's
from three characters, they're just like, okay, we're gonna let you know everything that's going on right
everything,
now. Right now, I'm like,
everything, and then
there's
push
this
you
much
into.
of a book left. How?
I
What the
know.
hell?
And yeah, you had the physical copy, so you could
Yeah.
physically like see how much is left in the book, and I feel like that could have been that could have been way better developed and incorporated and kind of
Hmm.
sprinkled throughout the story.
It could have been sprinkled.
And
She could have read it now that she was
mm,
like
I
kind of learning how to
literally,
read.
I think in order for the ending to work the way that it did, Feyre still needed to be illiterate. So I think that's what the writer had uh, thought in her head,
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, well, maybe I could have incorporated all these things earlier, but because she was illiterate, like, how would she find out this information? Because all these Fae cannot tell her anything. They
Right.
are bound. They can't tell
Which
her
I
anything.
thought it was like a very convenient time for that loophole to, come in.
Yeah, I know. So, but I think there could have been ways to do it differently.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
to not make the first half of the book um as sure there was some illusion, but it
Hmm.
wasn't
It
as
wasn't.
cohesive as it could
Yeah.
have been. They
Yeah.
could have
Like.
incorporated a little bit, like they could have shown um like I
I
guess
mean.
they could have shown people getting taken away. They
Hmm.
could have shown the queen uh capturing another like different court and it bestowing a different curse that Feyre could have seen
Right.
happen
Right.
and deduce some things in her head. Like there would have ways about it. I don't know. I'm not a writer, but like it was just
It was
the
ham-fisted.
the page and a half of info dump annoys me,
Yeah.
but I feel like after that it ramped up and
Like
I
all
enjoyed
gas, no
thoroughly
brakes.
enjoyed the rest of the book. after that.
I think like she could have used the author, Sarah J. Maas. She could have used the that fairy that got trapped. What was its type? She could have used that. Like, Feyre asked it what was going on. It wasn't bound by the curse. It
Are you talking about the summer fae that had its wings ripped off?
No, 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 no. No, the when she went into the forest and trapped. You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the name of it, which is so stupid because it's an actual fairy in like lore. And I know the name.
It starts with an S. Let me see if I have it in my Kindle.
I might have. Let's see, where is it? You know the one I'm talking about, though.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes, I know.
It made it a point to say that it was not bound by any court, and it gave her the clues,
some information.
Yeah, to stay with Tamlin, but it knew what was going on.
You know what I thought was going to happen, and now that I think about it, this probably should have happened. And maybe when this book was being written, the author already had like all the books mapped out, which I'm assuming.
I hope so.
So I thought that creature was going to come back and tell her more information, which would have been, in my opinion, a little bit more, a little bit better, like way to give exposition, as a thank you to Feyre for freeing him or freeing them. I don't know the gender, from the trap and from certain death, but then you get no resolution. That creature just flees and is never seen again.
Well, and so I can't say that because it's jumping ahead and you haven't gotten there yet. But everything we hear is the Feywild, the Feylands, I should say, is cunning and will trick you. And honestly, I didn't see a lot of that.
No.
Like, I felt like that was built up a lot. You can't trust them, which, yeah, you can't, like, you can't really trust anybody. But, like, even more so, you have to be, very careful with your words, or they'll trap you in a trade or a bargain. And none of that actually came into play. I was very disappointed. Like, why hype this?
It's funny that you say that, because there is a specific other book that centers around Fae that, granted, came out later, so I think it borrowed a lot of story beats from this story, that does incorporate that, and it is a pivotal part of the main character story, where the Fae do trick, they lie, steal, and cheat to get what they want.
Right.
So I agree with you. I think it could have been better incorporated here too. And I think it's all of a setup to just make her not trust Rhysand or Rhysand.
Rhysand.
It's Rhysand.
Is it Rhysand?
I think so. That's how the audiobook says the name, but in my head it was Rhysand.
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell us.
How
do you
put the emphasis down in the comments for us? At least I got Feyre right, because that is not how I would have said it. Like, I'm glad they put the okay, so things that was things that we liked and things that we didn't like, kind of mashed together. The ending. What did you think of the ending?
Good. I enjoyed it. I felt like it shifted from this like love story kind of capture Beauty and the Beast to like a complete action. Like, it was just complete shift in tone. It became a lot darker. It became extremely
more tense.
Violent, intense, and yes, it was more of like a thriller kind of. So she is sent by the maid of the house, who gave the info dump and basically told her she needs to, in order to save Tamlin, and you need to express true love and tell him that you love him in order to break the curse.
But the time has
Um,
lapsed, so it doesn't matter if she goes up and tells him she loves him because the curse has already been fulfilled.
Correct. And so, but she's love stricken. She feels extreme guilt for multiple reasons, and she wants to run in guns blazing and be like, you know what, screw it. I'm probably going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So why not try? So she is pretty much immediately captured, and
Yeah. It was like a blink
she,
and you missed it. I was like reading it. I was like, okay, she's in the tunnel. In the tunnel. Holy shit, now she's in the throne room. Like,
yep,
I thought this was supposed to be a trek. Nope, it was like I
nope,
do appreciate that. Like sometimes like the draw out for traveling, like what are you supposed to do? You like we either zip through or
mhm,
you explain it all. Now, if there's stuff going on, that's okay, but like if it's just filler, I don't want it. But this one,
mhm,
it was just like literally, I blinked and I was like, "Holy shit, she's
mhm.
before Amarantha."
Yes, Amarantha, and she basically thinks that she's going to die, so she uh, talks to her fairly candidly, and but then she's terrified. She knows that what happened is the person that she pinned the name on. Oh,
Claire,
we
yeah,
we should probably give a little bit backstory of that. So, in order for Amarantha is the evil queen
right.
that took over the Conqueror. Forgot what the title that she was given. Um, her she basically has like a sex slave, which is horrible,
Yeah.
and we find out that this is Rhysand,
Mhm.
another high fae of the Night Court.
Right.
Um, he runs into Feyre at a
Spring
um,
festival, like well, the equivalent of Beltane, I think it is.
right, exactly. I was thinking Beltane in my head the whole time, but they had to call it something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Farah, they run into each other. They have a small meeting. Rhysand saves her from basically getting R-worded from three
Yeah.
fairies, and then goes back to the castle. So that was the first meet. Rhysand is uh, this like dark, empowering, described as the most beautiful man she's ever met.
He's kind of
Um,
edgelord though.
huge edgelord.
As soon as I was described, I was like, "Oh, that's an emo edgelord if I ever heard one."
Yes, 1,000%. And then the way that he talks too
Yeah.
is very like that, and it's a little cringy. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
lie, a little cringy the way he speaks.
Yeah. But I mean,
But
like, even Tamlin has his moments where you're like, "Just shut up, please."
yes,
I
but
know I'm
anyway,
supposed to like you, but yeah, I'm gonna keep
yeah,
that.
I felt the same way. I did not like Tamlin at all
Like like I
since the
said,
beginning.
it was just like I know I'm supposed to like you, but
No.
like one of the things that I kept coming up against was that, um, even before I read the second book, like he didn't do anything, like at
No.
all. Um, his friend, I can't even remember his name.
I need to write down the names of
Lucian?
everything.
Lucian?
Lucian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lucian.
Lucian.
I liked him so much better. He had so much more personality.
Yes, I love Lucian. And when Lucian came in, I was like, "Oh, this is the
There
guy
you
that she's
go.
gonna fall in love
Yes,
with."
let he had a personality
Yes.
like that, and I was expecting Tamlin to have a personality.
Tamlin does not have
He
a
does not.
personality.
He does not. Like I marked in here his trauma points.
Mhm.
Um, oh wait, that's not trauma. Actually, I didn't mark in his trauma points. I marked the 2 points of smut,
Yeah.
2 points of violence. Oh wait, I do
Mhm.
have one.
I'm leaning back in my chair.
Okay. So I did have a Tamlin trauma point highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
This is on page 72 in chapter. Okay. It's fairly early. I'll say that. Probably in chapter 7. Tamlin stilled, such unearthly primal grace even to his breathing. There is a sickness in these lands. Crossed Pyrinthian. I think I said that right. There has been for almost 50 years now. It is why this house and these lands are so empty, most have left. The blight spreads slowly, but it has made magic act strangely. My own powers are diminished due to it. These masks, he tapped on his, are a result of a surge that occurred during a masquerade 49 years ago. Even now, we can't remove them. The curse stipulated that they couldn't tell the potential women about the curse. That sounds like telling about the curse, like in a roundabout way.
Yes.
And he lied on top of it. Like, the blight, this was one of the things that actually confused me later on. Like, okay, so the court, the whole of spring was cursed because they were all invited to the masquerade. They all had their masquerade masks affixed to their face by the curse. Why leave? It's not like it's gonna change.
I don't know.
Except for they didn't leave. They were all glamored. They're still all there.
That's true, yeah.
They were just glamored because he didn't want to, like, overwhelm her or something. So, like, I don't know if at this point he tells her that they can't lie. But that was just, like, and that's not even something that she remembers, like, later on. Like, I know, like, when you're writing, because this has happened to me writing my books, like, it's hard to remember which details you've already discussed in the works while you're writing it. But that just seems like a detail, like, there's so much that he just divulged in this that counteracts the stipulations of the curse, of the bargain.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, there are things that he just outright lied about. Like, the curse wasn't, the blight wasn't surging forth at all. It was just...
Not that anyone could see. Right. Everything was happening behind closed doors, like, the whole time, because Feyre was stuck in this castle.
Right. And only allowed out certain times. So, like, part of me wonders, what the hell was Lucien doing at the wall? Patrolling? What were they patrolling for? What?
Before it was revealed.
Right. Before it was... Because they already had her.
Yeah.
Like, the curse said that it would be a human that hated Fae, that killed a Fae, that came to love him. Okay. I would think that wouldn't mean that she'd have to say it. She'd just have to feel it. It's magic, for fuck's sake.
That's true.
So...
That's a really good point, actually, yeah.
Like, she knew she loved him. She just didn't voice it.
So, yeah, that is true. And I wonder if the stipulations of the curse was they had to physically speak their love. Because it did see that, like, she showed her love to him.
Right.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. She fulfilled everything pertinent to the
story
curse
beat
before the time limit had been up. So, like, did she need to declare her love before Amarantha?
Possibly.
Like,
but then
that's a good.
They didn't give her a chance,
right.
And then why send her away for the last final days if you had 3 more days?
Right. And it took her 2 days to get home. And then Amarantha's court showed up for him the day after her 2-day journey, and then she was there for what, 2-3 weeks?
I think yeah, around there.
Yeah. So, like, what was he holding out for? If the game was up, he was now 2-3 weeks past his due date for this stuff to finish. Why was he still holding out on her? what was the purpose other than a plot device? Like,
Yeah.
I have so many questions
Yeah.
that it just like
Yeah, I agree.
did somebody not like yeah. Anyways, I liked the tasks. I thought they were I didn't understand why Rysand
Mhm.
was
It's supposed to be Rysand, but I
Rysand.
like Rysand.
It sounds better. It's better off the tongue.
I
Um
agree.
I didn't understand how he was allowed to get away with as much as he was as her pet.
Right?
Like, because
So in my head, Amarantha has like actual feelings for Rysand. At least that's what I was getting at, or get like, but because why couldn't she just like you're dead?
that, I mean, that's explained a little bit more in the next book.
Okay.
You may not have gotten there yet.
Nope.
She was in love with Tamlin. Like, they kind of grew
Yes.
up together. Kind of, I guess. Like, that part also doesn't make sense. Like, okay, Tamlin knows her personality and did not trust her when she came to this side. But, like, I know there was a period between the wars because Rhysand was, he fought in the wars. He is older than Tamlin. But then Tamlin also was like his friend, I guess. Like, they allude that there was a friendship there.
A kinship somewhere.
Yeah,
How did that
like
happen?
they two grew up together, but Tamlin is not at that old.
Rhysand is older than
Right.
Tamlin.
So like there's things that are supposed to line up that don't.
Maybe maybe they'll be explained in the later novels.
Maybe. I hope so.
Yeah.
But so she was in love with Tamlin.
Okay.
And I think mostly because he resisted her.
Yeah.
Rhysand was, according to this book, just kind of capitulated because his family was on the wrong side of the war. So, like, I guess he's just trying to make the best of a situation. And because he doesn't fight against her like many of the other High Lords, he's granted a little bit more leniency.
Plus, I think maybe he was a tool in multiple ways than one. He has all this. He has an extreme amount of power.
Right. His abilities are unparalleled to some of the other high lords.
High Fae.
But that being said, like, he got a lot away with a lot.
He did.
And I don't even think she trusts him that much. Like, I think there's an inherent amount of trust that she gives him because of his abilities. But I don't think she actually trusts him that much. And yet he gets away with ordering guards around, taking Feyre sustenance and checking it, like having her in his room, I think.
And you would think that there would have been some sort of punishment on his end for doing that tattoo and saving her life, because it's like
it's flying in the face of Amarantha.
Yeah, Feyre is literally made to dance naked in front of everybody,
right?
And she has this tattoo, and it's like, if Amarantha is this like really strong
ruthless person,
there's no way that because when I saw that happening or read that happening, I was like, okay, that's it for Rhysand. Rhysand's gonna be like locked up in a cell. There's gonna be some sort of conflict with him, and Feyre is gonna be like left alone for like the final task or something like that.
Yeah, I did think there was going to be some kind of
I thought
repercussions.
Also, yeah. I'm happy with the way the final trial happened. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because I have some thoughts.
Okay.
I really liked the worm fight. I
Yeah.
thought that was really well done. It reminded me of the Harry Potter, the Goblet of Fire,
It
the
did. Yeah.
maze so much. I was
Oh my
reading, I was
gosh.
like, oh, I feel like I'm transported back to reading that for the first time. This is exciting. So I liked that. I uh, the second trial with the reading was kind of heartbreaking. I
Yeah.
thought they were gonna
I thought they were
kill
gonna kill
off.
Lucian.
I thought they were gonna kill Lucian,
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe my effed up mind wanted him to die there, but I was just like, oh wow, they didn't do it. They didn't go through with it. And then for the final trial, I like the way that it went out makes more sense, but I thought for sure that final Fae was gonna be Lucian again.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know if that was the
was.
same thing going in
Let
your
me
head.
hold on. Let me put my
You're good.
glasses on. Let me let me get this. Okay.
Let me whip it out.
So, okay, that's not it. Hold on. Okay. So the final task, I was given my old tunic and pants, stained and torn and reeking. But despite my stench, I kept my chin high as I was escorted to the throne room.
Mhm.
The doors were flung open and the silence of the room assaulted me. I waited for the jeers and shouts, waited to see the flash, or the gold flash as the onlookers placed their bets. But this time the fairies just stared at me, the masked ones especially intently. The world rested on my shoulders. Rise had said, the world rested on my shoulders, Rice had said, but I didn't think it was a worry alone that spread across their features. I had to swallow hard as a few of them touched their fingers to their lips, then extended their hands to me, a gesture for the fallen. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's so very Hunger Games.
Yes, 1000%.
A
Yeah.
farewell to the honored dead. There was nothing malicious about it. Most of these fairies belonged to the courts of the High Lords, and belonged to those courts long before Amarantha seized their lands and their lives. And if
Mhm.
Tamlin and Rysand were playing games to keep us alive... I strode up the path they cleared, straight for Amarantha. The queen smiled when I stopped in front of her throne. Tamlin was in his usual place beside her, but I wouldn't look at him, not yet. So when I started reading, this is chapter 30 or 43, page 386 for those who are following along in their books. When I read that, I was like, okay, we still have the riddle, which I thought was a dead fucking giveaway. Like, I was so disappointed in that riddle. First
Me
of
too.
all, nothing about Amarantha would state that she was... Okay, yeah, she says that she's in love with Tamlin, but like
Mhm.
nothing about her screams hearts and cupids and sweethearts. Why?
Absolutely not.
I thought it was such a horrible riddle.
I think the riddle should have been
It
not
wasn't even a
love.
riddle. It
It
wasn't
wasn't.
a riddle.
Mm-mm.
Like, I was so disappointed in that.
Mhm.
Because I was like, oh, it's obviously love.
Yeah.
Like, and then the more I was
This is
thinking
the
about it,
whole
it was like,
theme of the book.
like, and I mean, she kept. I think even there were points where Feyre was like, "Oh, it's love, like it's my love for him. It's
Mhm.
and I was like,
Then
okay,
that's the answer.
so why? What? Just say it. Just say it. And oh no, I don't want to be wrong.
Well, you're gonna be wrong if you
Bitch,
don't
you're
say
gonna
anything.
die.
Yeah.
Like,
So take the chance.
she didn't say you only had one guess, for Christ's sake. Just start
Do you know
throwing
what?
things out
My
there.
I know this is a dumb, stupid little gripe, but Feyre has like the weakest stomach of all time. She throws up, or almost
All the
throws up,
time.
so many
And
times.
she's supposed to be a hunter?
No, I don't know. They said so later on that she was never meant to be a hunter. She just only did it for
Right, but she had been
'cause
doing
she
it for
had to.
5 years.
Yeah.
Like, you get she hunted
You were
enough.
supposed. That's true, and she was probably the one preparing the meat too. So like, why
Right.
why would she be queasy at the sight of certain things,
Like,
when you gut animals? So, yeah, you're right. That is a bit of a plot
I
inconsistency,
mean, like, if you
character
talk to
inconsistency.
nurses,
Yeah.
I mean, look at your profession. How many
Yeah,
times did animals poop on the table or piss on the table?
multiple
Like,
times a day.
you kind of get used to it.
And
And
on you. There was a day that I got peed on
I
four
remember
times.
you're like, I need to change my clothes before I get in your car because I just got pissed on. I was like, okay. Don't
Anyway.
sit in my car, you said. I just got pissed on and it reeks in here.
Yep.
You get over it. Like, and
You do.
and in a small amount of time. Like, she was a hunter for her family because everybody else are fucking dickwads. Pardon my French, not really. She did that. Like, okay. Just as a point for anybody who's watching, tanning hides is not a pretty, easy, or pleasant experience. It
Not
takes,
at all.
first of all, it takes multiple days. Okay.
Don't you have to oil, like tallow them all the time?
It depends on the process that you're using. It depends on the hide. Tanneries, though, in a production, to give you an idea, tanneries in a production setting usually are far away from other people because the fumes are noxious. You can get sick from just breathing this stuff. She prepared 2 hides to take to market. Like, part of okay, so like if we were to go back, some of the materials you would use to tan hides are usually the organs of the animal that you're tanning.
Makes sense, yeah.
Like some
you don't want to
cultures,
waste anything.
right? Some cultures use the brain matter to tan the hides. Like, it
Makes
just
sense,
helps
actually.
cure it. Like, she should not be gagging.
I agree.
Every single time. Like, okay, yes, I have cried so much that I've made myself sick.
In those instances where she was feeling sick because of like guilt, like I get that
yeah.
is a whole different ballgame.
Right.
But like seeing things like disembowelment, like other things like that, I'm like, why?
Something's not adding up.
Yeah. Anyway,
Girl lied on her resume, I think. She padded that resume a little bit.
So that was just my minor gripe. I'm glad that you felt the same way.
Yeah, like, there were times where I did this to the book, and you know how I am about books, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
I love my books. Books should be treasured. But sometimes I was just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yes.
Even my husband was like, are you okay over there? I'm like, no. She's a 19-year-old idiot.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, there were so many things that if she had just been paying a little bit more attention and not wallowing, which, that being said, depression is a thing. And it takes many forms, and we're not always as coherent as we should be when we're in a depressive state. And I will say that that aspect of the story was actually very well written. As someone who suffers from depression quite regularly, like, there were moments where I was just like, man, I feel that. I'm right there with her. Like,
all her like nightmares. Her constant anxiety of her family. Because all that burden was placed on her.
And she's the youngest. Like, I think we always forget that she is the youngest. And like, I did enjoy that part.
Yes, very well written.
Okay, so we got our first 2 trials. We've got our lackluster, not riddle, our 3rd trial.
Yes.
I did not expect it to play out that way.
Me either. What did you expect?
So I totally expected, I wasn't going to say Lucian. I didn't expect him to be under there. I sure as hell didn't expect Tamlin.
Me either.
And if it was going to be Tamlin, I thought it was going to be a glamour. someone who
Ah.
wasn't Tamlin but had Tamlin's face. Um, and I I kind of had the feeling she was going to turn the knife on herself.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought so too. I thought it was gonna be like a Princess Bride moment where she's just like gonna go like that,
Yep.
and then someone was gonna stop her, like Rhysand was gonna stop her,
Yeah, that was my
or
number one.
something like that.
That was my number one thing. I thought Stoneheart was most definitely just a figure of speech, which
Me
it
too.
still like doesn't. That's still not explained why he has a stone heart.
Right, right. That came out of nowhere. There could have been, whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's a minor gripe. I kind of don't want to go like super in depth into that.
yeah.
But
It was said in passing.
it was
very
and
early.
It was alluded to, so I'm not like 100% unhappy with
but
that.
my first thought was, okay, she's gonna turn the blade on herself. Which I thought would actually be like, I thought that was actually gonna be once I read it, I was like, oh no, my idea was much better. Like there's just, because she still technically didn't end the third trial.
Mm-mm.
She needed to pierce the heart of 3, and she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Because his heart was stone. I mean, I don't think it stipulated it had to be 3 fairies.
Right.
So I expected her to, and that's, I am playing on what in D&D we called player knowledge. I was thinking on player knowledge on that aspect. I knew that she was eventually going to become a fae, a high fae.
Oh, did you?
I
didn't.
Because of
completely
fucking
blind.
Instagram, man.
Yeah. No, I think story beats and like character personalities were more spoiled to me, unfortunately, than like what happens to the characters. Yeah.
So I thought, like, I was like, oh, okay, this is fitting. This is actually more fitting. She has, if she had stabbed her own heart, she would have fulfilled the requirement of the third trial. He would have been out.
Mm-hmm. And he could have just resurrected her that way too.
Right. It was still like, now her sacrifice was more.
Mm-hmm.
She'd actually given her life to remove them from the curse.
And now that I think about it, and you're 1,000% correct, I think it's would have been better because it fulfills the terms of the curse, and she feels that immense guilt. She is depressed. She's a depressed person. Right. And she had to kill 2 innocent people.
Right.
Or 2 innocent fairies. And like the fact that she only hunted for necessity.
Right.
And it made her upset every time.
Right.
And then she has to kill 2 intelligent, innocent creatures.
Right.
I think that would have been a perfect little catalyst to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to die anyway.
Yeah. Because she had even thought about the fact that Amarantha hadn't set a term limit on when they would change them. So, like, it could have, or removed the curse from them, which is something that Amarantha says after she stabs Tamlin. But if she had stabbed herself, it would have made everybody rally against Amarantha. Like, obviously.
I know, and why didn't that happen, by the way?
I don't know.
I was very upset about that. I was like, oh, this is just going to be a complete bloodbath the second.
Right. Instead, who's all fighting? Tamlin,
Hammerfell.
Tamlin, Rhysand, and Lucien are the only ones who are fighting Amarantha. And what does Feyre die from? A broken neck.
Yep.
Like,
I think they wanted to have that scene where Feyre was being tortured to death by Amarantha and Amarantha's wrath. They wanted to show that.
They could have still done that if she had turned the knife on herself.
They could have. She could have stopped her.
Right. Right. Like, and then she could have
But
been, why? Love.
yeah.
Love. There you go. Now we
Right.
fulfilled the riddle as well. Like,
The prophecy,
it
or
would have
the
just been
riddle, yeah.
better. I think it would have just been
It was you're right. It
more
was a little bit
poignant.
muddy. It
Yeah.
was a little muddy there.
It was.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right about that.
It would have brought a little bit more gravitas to the situation. It would have been a little bit more now the reasoning behind all the High Lords stepping up and giving a piece of themselves. It would have rang a little bit more true.
Yeah.
Because
I agree. Because like, why didn't
none of these High Lords like each other, for Christ's sake.
Right.
None of them like her.
It was a little that's the thing. It was a little unbelievable for them to all step up and give a piece of their soul or magic,
or
whatever this is, to bring her back. If they had all turned on her when the hammer or when the curse was lifted. I was like, maybe out of Fae respect, they wanted Tamlin to just exact the revenge.
Like, it doesn't ring true because she didn't really. She fell and broke her. She got pushed and broke her neck, something like that. Like,
I don't remember.
Doing that would have been a lot more sacrifice than.
I know.
Like, so I liked the ending. The ending. I didn't like that. Like, I thought that could have been better. So what did you think then when she turns around after she's been resurrected, whatever, and Rhysand is gone?
Yeah.
And then he shows up on her balcony.
Yeah. That whole scene.
What did you think? Foreshadowing, obviously.
1000% foreshadowing. I suspected that Rhysand was going to be endgame the second he came into the picture, because I was just like, why are they introducing
about him halfway through the book?
Yeah. Also, like, the fact that she thought that he was like the most perfect, the most beautiful person she's ever seen or met.
Right.
All this power and everything, and whether she liked it or not, you definitely feel that she's attracted to him.
Yeah.
And but maybe she'll realize this slowly in the other books, but everything that he did for her was to help her. Every single thing. He knew who she was, I think. I think that before he killed the innocent girl in the village.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the reason,
I think he knew the terms of the curse.
Yes.
I think he knew what she was when he showed up at Beltane.
I agree.
I think
she knew exactly who she was.
I think he I don't know why he was needling. I mean, I do now, but at the time I didn't know why he was needling Tamlin if their end goals are the same.
Right.
Because a lot of that was just to needle Tamlin. Like her dancing drunk and because like she doesn't remember dancing. She knows it happened because she's exhausted every day, but she doesn't know what's happening those evenings that she's dancing for 12 hours. That's all just to needle Tamlin. Well, maybe, and to keep Amarantha focused on her and not basically watch this hand so you don't know what this hand is doing.
Right, to keep the distraction off of him so that she thinks that he is still loyal to her and not have his own personal selfish goals in mind.
But at the same time, like, he also set up an escape for her and Tamlin. Like, if you're gonna needle the hell out of him, why try and help them escape? Which there's
gotta be a reason. I think that's gonna be alluded to in a different book. At least I hope so. One would hope.
I think this just goes back to how I don't like Tamlin before I read anymore. Like, I was like, you got away from your prison guard, your keeper, and you want to start feeling her up in a closet?
Mm.
Like, you have a perfect opportunity right now. Nobody has noticed you guys are gone.
Yeah, when I read that, I was frustrated as well. A, because she's painted. Like,
Right.
obviously, they're gonna know what happened.
Right?
And I was like, okay, they must both feel in their core that they're going to die. So
I
I
mean, they
think
had to have.
I think that's that. I kind of excuse that for that reason alone. I was like, they just wanted a night together before the last moment, a final kiss before
Right.
they are off to their death.
But Tamlin
Uh,
hadn't been struggling at all through this. Like, once a month she had one of these tasks. So she's
mhm,
been there for 3 months under the mountain, and he has
mhm.
not done a single thing to try and free himself or his people.
You would think
Going
that he
so
had like a
far,
secret plan or something, or
he's had
be in
50
league with
years to think
what
about
Rysand in
this.
some way. Like, I wonder if they were like putting on an act
Right.
of being rivals or hating each other when in reality they've been in cahoots the whole time. That's what was going on in my head. Also, I had a thought, and I don't know if you had the same thought. When Rysand was making her, like, blacking her out and dancing every
Mm-hmm.
single night, I thought he was setting that up as an excuse to get her in physical shape for the final trial. um
Oh.
that would be in a way that, like, a secret way to like make her like physically more able and not like stronger
I
or
hadn't thought
something.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he didn't know what the trials were.
No.
Um, it does make me wonder. No, because he could read. That's never mind. He didn't know what the trials were. As far as we know,
No.
he didn't know what the trials were. So maybe it was a way to keep her stamina up.
Yeah.
Um, I hadn't thought about that.
Hmm.
Um, that's a very good point.
Because like everything he does, even though some of them are like definitely morally gray and not great,
Yeah,
um was to help her and
right.
help her defeat Amarantha. So that's what was going on in my head through that whole thing. I was like, oh, this is kind of
On the surface, everything
gross and
seems very
lecherous.
self-surface or
Yes.
self-serving.
Yes.
But no, like there's not been a moment where he was like, no, this is mine. And you're going to do it for me. Like, man, like I'm just thinking about the way that Rhysand acts with her and Tamlin acts with her. Like Tamlin, of course, I'm a sucker for, oh, I'm going to protect you. Um,
Right.
you
Protect you or die, or kind
right,
of that trope.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, what is it? Touch her and die kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but he does come across as overbearing. Like nobody
Oh.
nobody talk about what's going on when she's around. Like we're gonna glamour everybody, limit her interactions to only certain people.
Mhm.
And Rhysand's like, do what you need
I'm
to
gonna be
do.
straight up and be honest.
Yeah. I have never, like, he never once lied to her. And
Mhm.
getting to the end of the book and seeing their final interaction in that chapter, um, like, it's very evident he allows her own agency. And that
Yes.
is huge.
Hmm.
He may not be giving away a lot of information when he allows that agency, but at least she has it. She feels like she has a choice. Even when she doesn't feel like she has a choice, she at least has a choice. And he makes it very easy for her to make those choices. Tamlin, he's like, no, this is what we're doing.
Mm.
This is how it's going to be. We just got to keep the path. Bitch, this is your path.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, and maybe I wasn't paying attention very well. I did not understand why before he went away,
Mm-hmm.
poofed away. I don't understand his hesitation when looking back.
Which one? At the very end?
At the very end. Very, very end. He's like, wait, what? And then he, like, leaves.
Okay, so hold on.
I'm assuming he felt at that time, through context, like, I think he felt some actual real attraction from her, maybe?
Okay, so here I'm going to... I'm going to read this passage, okay? This is on page 412. It's very near the end of the book. I was pulled from sleep by something tugging at my middle. I gotta put my glasses on. Hold on. Because I'm old.
Stop.
It's not even my readers. I don't even know where my readers are.
Oh, no.
They're around here somewhere. I was pulled from sleep by something tugging at my middle, a thread deep inside. I left Tamlin sleeping in the bed, his body heavy with exhaustion. In a few hours, we would be leaving Under the Mountain and returning home, and I didn't want to wake him sooner than I had to. I prayed I would ever get to sleep that peacefully again. I knew who summoned me long before I opened the door to the hall and padded down it, stumbling and teetering every now and then as I adjusted to my new body, its new balance and rhythms. I carefully, slowly, took a narrow set of stairs upward, up and up, until, to my shock, a trickle of sunlight poured into the stairwell, and I found myself on a small balcony jutting out from the side of the mountain. I hissed against the brightness, shielding my eyes. I'd thought it was the middle of the night. I'd completely lost all sense of time in the darkness of the mountain. Rhysand chuckled softly where I could vaguely make him out, standing along the stone rail. I forgot, it's been a while for you. My eyes stung from the light, and I remained silent until I could look at the view without a shooting pain going through my head. A land of violet snow-capped mountains greeted me, but the rock of this mountain was brown and bare. Not even a blade of grass, or a crystal of ice gleamed on it. I looked at him finally. His membranous wings were out, tucked behind him, but his hands and feet were normal, no talons in sight. What do you want? It didn't come out with the snap I intended. Whoops, my bad. Not as I remembered how he fought, again and again, to attack Amarantha, to save me. Just to say goodbye. A warm breeze ruffled his hair, brushing tendrils of darkness off his shoulders. Before your beloved whisks you away forever. Not forever, I said, wiggling my tattooed fingers for him to see. Don't you get a week every month? Those words, thankfully, came out frosty. He smiled slightly, his wings rustling and then settling. How could I forget? I stared at the nose I'd seen bleeding only a few hours before, the violet eyes that had been so filled with pain. Why? I asked. He knew what I meant and shrugged. Because when the legends get written, I didn't want to be remembered for standing on the sidelines. I want my future offspring to know that I was there, and that I fought against her at the end, even if I couldn't do anything useful. I blinked, this time not at the brightness of the sun. Because, he went on, his eyes locked with mine, I didn't want you to fight alone, or die alone. For a moment, I remembered that fairy who had died in our foyer, and how I'd told Tamlin the same thing. Thank you, I said, my throat tight. Rhys flashed a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. I doubt you'll be saying that when I take you to the night court. I didn't bother to reply as I turned towards the view. The mountains went on, gleaming and shadowed and vast under the open, clear sky. But nothing in me stirred. Nothing cataloged the lights and the colors. So I know you've started the second book. I think this is the start of some of those feelings that she starts having. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing is making her feel the freedom, the feeling of freedom that she once was longing for. Mm-hmm. Are you going to fly home? I said. A soft laugh. Unfortunately, it would take longer than I can afford. Another day, I'll taste the skies again. I glanced at the wings tucked into his powerful body, and my voice was hoarse as I spoke. You never told me you loved the wings, or the flying. No, he'd made his shape-shifting seem base, and useless, and boring. He shrugged. Everything I love has always had a tendency to be taken from me. I tell very few about the wings, or the flying. Some color had already come into the moon face, that white, that, oh my goodness. Some color had already come into that moon white face, and I wondered whether he might once have been tanned before Amarantha had kept him below ground for so long. A high lord who loved to fly, trapped under a mountain. Shadows not of his own making still haunted those violet eyes. I wondered if they would ever fade. Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritties. So then he asks her about what it feels like to be high fae. He says, okay, here we go. Rhysand stared at me for long enough that I faced him. Be glad of your human heart, Feyre. Pity those who don't feel anything at all. I couldn't explain about the hole that had already formed in my soul. Didn't want to, so I just nodded. Well, goodbye for now, he said, rolling his neck as if he hadn't been talking about anything important at all. He bowed at the waist, those wings vanishing entirely, and then began to fade into the nearest shadow when he went rigid. Mm-hmm. His eyes locked on mine, wide and wild, and his nostrils flared. Shock, pure shock, flashed across his features at whatever he saw on my face, and he stumbled back a step. Actually stumbled. What is... I began. He disappeared, simply disappeared, not a shadow in sight, into the crisp air.
Yep. Illusion.
Illusion, or like
nothing.
Alluded. Mm-hmm. It is definitely alluding. I'm not gonna say what it's alluding to because I've already finished book 2, but that's next video. Oh my gosh, is it next
Yay.
video?
We can. I mean, depending on the timeline of how you want to do this, I will probably be down next week, depending on our schedules. Because I am almost done. I'm like halfway through.
Okay.
I did write that as my second favorite quote. Of the "Be glad of your human heart, Feyre. Pity those who don't feel anything at all." So.
That was, I thought that was especially poignant. Mm-hmm. Considering everything he had revealed while they were in the cell, and I think I don't this again, player knowledge versus character knowledge. I don't think he's talking about himself.
No.
I think he's actually talking about some of the other High Lords. Mm-hmm. Because you're halfway through the book. You kind of know what's going on already. But I think he was in a position that he had to choose how he would go about his rebellion. And he chose one that would least impact others. And because of that, his acts of rebellion, although small, may seem unfeeling because they were so small. And I believe that because he was actively rebelling from her, he got to see those who were just going with it. So I think for him, feeling the guilt and the sorrow that all of their actions kind of made is what actually draws him to her more. Like she's gone through this transition. She is now immortal, compared to like her sisters, compared to any other human for that matter. And she's still grounded in reality, even though this is a fantasy.
Yes. I had a thought, and I should have written this down, but maybe we should reserve this for the second book. Yeah, you know what?
Save it.
I'm going to reserve it for the second one because I thought about it when you were reading through that passage, and it makes sense given the not controversy, but the story of the Beauty and the Beast, and this is definitely a retelling of that.
Yeah.
So, and
But
how.
I will say that having finished the second book,
Mhm,
that story outline
mhm.
ends with this one.
1000%. 1000%.
And I
And I
don't
do,
know how I
for
feel
that
about
reason
that.
alone, I think it was probably written as a single, and
Yeah.
then like maybe added towards the end,
Yeah.
that single balcony scene. They're just like, we're gonna keep
Right. It
going.
does seem like an afterthought. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. Because I mean, they don't really talk about all that much.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, she supposedly had been up there for like a half an hour, something like that, by the time she
Mm.
goes back to Tamlin. But like, they don't really say that much other than, basically, hey, glad to see you're still alive. I'll see you in a week.
Well, they did set up the fact that they're doing the weekly visits.
Yeah.
So I think as soon as they get to that point in the
Mm-hmm.
story, we're gonna see more, or we're gonna see more in the same book. I was reading an ebook. I didn't know that it was only 419 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could have been like a big book, and they
Right.
included it all
A
in one
lot more.
story. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna amend that. I think there were more books in mind with this story from the beginning, um, or at least halfway through.
Yeah, I think
So,
I think that's fair to say. Like halfway through,
mm,
I think they were like, I think Sarah J. Maas was like, yeah, I think this could be a series,
mhm,
or maybe her editor was like,
mhm.
this could become a series. All right. Well, I think I covered everything that I had burning in me to discuss with you. There'll probably
Yes.
be more things.
Mhm.
Uh, if you've been watching this long, we're now at over an hour. Thank you so much for listening
Hey,
to our
thank you.
review and our discussion about A Court of Thorns and Roses. We are going to read the entire series.
Mhm,
Um, I'm already done with the second book. I stopped before the third because I wanted to do our discussions first.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm really excited to discuss the second one with you. Um, I think you're gonna be flabbergasted with the ending. I got up and I shouted.
Oh,
So,
yay!
um,
Okay.
just a reminder, we have our March picks out for the book club. We are reading actually I just got some of them. We
Oh,
are
did
reading,
you?
yep, right here.
Mhm.
It's a thick book, okay?
Is it? Yes.
Yes. All right. So,
Slaying the Vampire Conqueror
we're
by
reading,
Carissa Broadbent.
yep, and then my pick was the story or no, The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty by Anne Rice. So
I have a physical copy coming in the mail. It has
mine's
not
coming
arrived yet.
tonight. I'm so excited. It is March 2nd. So, uh, of course, like, subscribe, comment down below. If you have suggestions for questions for us for the second read, please write. We would love to answer any questions that you guys have for us, and what we think about different parts of the next book for all of the books. Oh my gosh, please write them down. We will answer them.
Yes.
And yeah, we don't have a schedule right now for the ACOTAR set. This is just like as soon as we finish a book,
We'll record.
we're gonna record because like I read both.
It's all fresh.
Right, it's fresh. Well, fresh enough. Fresh enough. I read the first two books in like 2 days.
I know. You're
It was,
fast.
I was like, I couldn't stop. Once that first book was done, that second book, I was like, yes. Because I
Yep, we're
had
gonna
been
go.
told, like, my coworker, the one who read the whole series, he was like, by the way, I've been sending him the same memes that I've been sending you, and his responses are hilarious. He's like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, fuck Tamlin. Oh my gosh, yes, you have no idea yet. Wait until book such and such.
Oh goodness.
Because even though he sits right next to me, he and I primarily talk through text because we both have our earphones in. We're either listening to music, listening to podcasts, listening to books. He does everything by audiobook because he just doesn't have the time to sit and read.
Understandable.
But yeah, so he was like, I'm gonna let you know there's trigger warnings for book 2. And I was like, sir, say no more. I'm
Yes.
there.
Say less. Say less.
So yeah, I'm excited for book 3. I'm excited to see what you think of book 2. I'm so happy you're halfway through it. But yeah, leave your comments down below. We'll go through them and we'll tell you what we think. And hopefully we'll see you in a couple of days, maybe sometime next week. But if not, then we'll definitely have our video up on the 24th for the Claiming of Sleeping Beauty and the Slaying of the Vampire Conqueror. Again, read along with us. We'd love to have discussions. And I think that's it for us this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.